Hello everyone, welcome to Chasing a Murderer. Before we get started, take a moment to like, subscribe, and comment later on how you feel about this case. Now, the amount of stories that I'm going to start posting is going to depend on the interest of this channel. Just know that I truly do appreciate and love you guys. And I hope that you guys feel the same for me. So here we are, part 64 of Life Beyond the Grave, attached to the Lori Vallow case. This series is actually, it's focused on trying to figure out how in the world we got to the point we did in this case where so many lives were taken. I mean, the most shocking are the children involved in this case. So many of the people like Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, Jason Mao, Hector Sosa, Christopher Parrott, Julie Rowe, and many, many others. Well, they're all have something very in common, and it is the Mormon religion. They are preparing for end days, the second coming of Jesus Christ, and it is the building of the Church of the Firstborn. So does this really connect to the religion itself? Well, back when this religion first started, it was actually started with the founder of Joseph Smith. He actually was a businessman that was buying up lands to build master plan towns from scratch, and it was referred to as the Flat of Zion. And this is very similar to what Chad Daybell, Julie Rowe, and a few others are speaking about. It's around March 1st of 2017 that Mormon Leaks received the following notice ordering them to take down a PowerPoint presentation that leaked. So even before this story actually got big, the church was dealing with a lot of prosecution like they have since the beginning. And they're having to deal with that with Julie Rowe, especially Julie Rowe right now, since she's hitting the media headlines. It's around March 19th of 2017 that they have this thing called the St. George Christ Conference, a new movement based on the belief that the existing LDS hierarchy lost its way. And they are achieving major milestones, establishing new canon of scripture. And they're using this scripture alongside the doctrines of Joseph Smith teachings. The main church is keeping up with groups like this, but it's getting quite difficult to know the exact numbers. They expect that there's at least a few hundred followers throughout the world. And guess who they are looking at? Well, it's Denver Snuffer. He claimed at the time that he isn't trying to start his own church, yet it is clear that this new movement is actually based in a large part of his teachings in these books and lectures, and he compares his role to Jana Reese. But it was in 2013 that this guy, Denver Snuffer, was excommunicated from the LDS Church because his teachings, specifically those contained in the book Passing the Heavenly Gift. Now, you need to listen to this closely. So this movement, well, he says it's not owned by him. The participants are independently motivated, and furthermore, that he had no control over anyone. And like many groups that are branching off from the LDS, and this is weekly, guys, that the LDS is having to deal with this, they have meetings where they discuss or display spiritual gifts. Healing ordinances have actually taken place. They also have prophecies that are given on a daily basis. Even worse, revelation that was given in the answer to prayer as meetings take place. So you have these groups breaking off, and these groups are actually in contact with one another now online on a regular basis. And the thing is they're not going to their churches. What they're doing is they're going to each other's home. And does this sound familiar? So there, in these private homes, they hold these like private little church things, conferences, and many gatherings. And where there are groups and supporters, there's going to be a collection of money. And of course, they call it tithing. And if there's enough tithing, well, they're going to be able to build a pretty decent amount of organization, or groups establish decent amount of organization, which also means they'll be able to get a big outreach. The movement of schism attached to the LDS. Could it be that Chad Daybell, Julie Rowe, and other people along those lines are, well, they've been interested in his work. Many of these groups, well, they all have something in common in the fact that Nephi, he believed that his father was the messenger of God. And if the angel brought him a message, then it must have been a message from God himself as well. And for this group of people, the biggest test of all is whether or not you believe these messages are from God and if you will follow what he asked. Very, very dangerous. So for people like Lori Vallow, we know that she's looking constantly for messages and that they could lie anywhere. It could be secret. It could be buried within a bunch of words in a pile of books. It can be disguised as a voice in your head. Perhaps your consciousness is a message from God. They are learning that you can communicate telepathically to God and angels above. And if you are a naysayer, most likely you're being persuaded by Satan. And those who continue to follow these messages, well, they are considered to be in the higher ranks, which is very important to several people involved with this case, including Lori Vallow, Julie Rowe, and Chad Daybell. It's a huge operation of what they call believers in truth. And it is very dangerous because they believe that the hierarchy has lost approval of their God, and that now regular men outside the hierarchy can bestow priesthood abilities and authority. Now, let's go ahead and get into Lori, where she's at in this timeline in 2017. And we have learned from a few sources, like her nephew, Zach Cox, which is the son of Adam Cox, Lori's brother, that he's staying on and off with Lori and Charles and their family. And it's around April of 2017 that Zach says that he remembers that he is staying back with his Aunt Lori while the rest of the family went off to hang out. Lori begins sharing information about these books by authors like Chad Daybell and podcasts by Julie Rowe and how important she's found them to be. She warns of impending doom. And now it's time to prepare for the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. When the kids are at home, Zach says if they watch an R-rated movie, Lori has a problem with that. And she says that when you watch these R-rated movies, an evil spirit is screaming in your face, encouraging it. Zach said that he was on the phone at the time, and he says, wow, that's crazy. And I know we mentioned this part before. So here you can understand Lori's mental state. Well, she believes that there are evil spirits surrounding her. And imagine sitting down watching an R-rated movie. Now imagine that you believe that there are evil spirits, and you could believe this, spirits surrounding you, especially when you turn on what's considered an R-rated movie, and you're thinking about the idea that there is an evil spirit screaming at you to watch this movie. For me, if I thought in this way, I would think that it would be a very scary scenario. And let's not forget, she's learning right now that the hierarchy within the church, well, they're no longer to her and to other people she follows. Well, they have no authority. And around this time as well, you got to remember this marks the anniversary. It's 2 days from, I guess, April 1st, around April 3rd marks 181 years from the day when Malachi's prophecy was fulfilled. I hope I said that right. On that day, Elijah did come, and he gave to Joseph Smith the priesthood power to seal families eternally. And who believes more in the sealing of families? Well, it will be Chad Daybell. Chad is absolutely obsessed with himself and the fact that he carries these very special gifts that he can bestow upon other people, giving them gifts as well. But those gifts are given to a very select and rare amount of people. Julie Rowe seems to be walking in Chad Daybell's light around this time still, And there are many fans of Julie Rowe. You might need to know this, guys, whether you support it or not. And there are people also who are questioning her mental status. And they say that they listen to most of her podcasts and they are horrifying. They admit there's false doctrine. She's conspiring with evil spirits. She's also communicating with spirit guides, and that she is talking with animals. One of her new spirit guides around this time is a guy by the name of Isaiah. And I always wonder, does this have anything to do with the Isaiah Institute? And here's the thing about Julie Rowe, is she's very inspired by some of the um, entertainment that surrounds her, including things like Wonder Woman. And that movie had actually triggered her to understand that she had dozens of near-death experiences and give her the understanding that her gifts are growing, gifts from a very divine power source. One person that is commenting on Julie Rowe around this time notices that she is copying material from VOG, SM, Edgar Casey, and others. There is talk that the city of Enoch is coming back from the Gulf of Mexico from where it was taken. Julie Rowe claims that she is seeing God in Jesus Christ. That's the top of the deity triangle. And she's claiming that now she has messages that are given directly to her that she's not allowed to share until she's given the authority to do so. Julie is also using the bombings, like the Boston bombing, the 9/11 attacks, as conspiracy theories, false flag attacks. And around this time as well, she's writing her fourth book. It's in process, and it's getting funding for a documentary about her experiences. And it is said that she is still collecting money from various enterprises to fund her Greater Tomorrow Relief Fund. And this is to help families that are flooding into Utah, preparing for the second coming and joining the Church of the Firstborn. And right now, they're still expecting that large earthquake to hit around Salt Lake City. This is something you can expect whether you're a prophet or not. I mean, there's just going to be earthquakes in that area and several areas time after time. But Julie is trying to make these predictions to make her out to be someone who has been given a special look on the inside before these disasters hit. And if you do not agree with her, depending on the day, she will take a lash at you. The lashings come at different severities depending on her mood. She can be calm and overlook it one day and be extremely aggressive and threatening the next. Thankfully, Julie Rowe is an open book. It's given us much opportunity to read how we got to where we did in this case. It's around June 26th of 2017, and beautiful Tylee Ryan posts on Instagram for her mother's birthday. Now I want you to notice what she says about her mother. She says, "My mom is superior to yours, so don't even try. She is talented, beautiful, smart, and caring. I love you, from your favorite child." So this gives you a glimpse into how this family operates and how they think. And it appears that Tylee's been groomed very well to show her mom and how much she appreciates her. Though we do know at one point, Tylee seems to absolutely adore her mother. Tylee Ryan is always very adamant about trying to please her mother. And the thing is, I start to wonder later on, and we'll talk about this later, was she ever walking on eggshells? Because it seems you had to say the right thing, do the right thing in order to stay in her light. It was around June of 2017, that there's another Instagram post of Lori holding a baby. Some people believe it is her first grandchild by Colby. Some people believe in that it's JJ. It can't be JJ because she's in another picture where JJ is Well, his age is in his elementary school years. And this is posted for Lori's birthday the next year of 2018. So I wanted to go ahead and mention that now because I think I put that in the wrong place. And Tylee had shared this photo of Lori and JJ writing, "I won the lottery with this one as my mom." But like I said, you see these Instagram posts and everything appears perfect, but we're learning that behind the scenes, there's something completely different going on. These are not normal people. Charles is going through hell with the teenagers. Lori also claims she's going through hell, and she's also preparing for disaster. During this time, we don't hear a lot about what Charles thinks about all this. He's kind of quiet. He's just going to work. He's supporting the family. He's not really sharing too much of his personal life with any of his siblings, not even Kay Woodcock. But you can imagine that this must have been pretty tough for him because he's starting to see his wife switch her interest from being obsessed with Joseph Ryan to being obsessed with the end days. Now, remember, we mentioned a guy by the name of David Warwick. And believe it or not, guys, David Warwick is actually one of the first guests for the Preparing the People conferences that are actually getting going around June 30th of 2017. Here's the promotion writing post shared by Preparing the People. It says, "Meet David Warwick, someone who went from gangs to gospel and shares extensive vision when he speaks all over the Western states about the Lord's mercy and patience through our trials. How the adversary can bring liberty," one of the topics of our Preparing the People conference. During this time, Lori is very active on Vimeo. So are the Preparing the People and a lot of the LDS networking. And I'll actually share some audio of some of these conferences and some of the speakers a little bit later. Now, here's something I'm kind of skipping way ahead to share with you guys, and it involves Julie Rowe speaking about Chad Daybell. So, according to her, she was sexually assaulted by Chad Daybell, but she didn't ever say anything until many years later. Now, those of you that follow the story closely, you know when the story first broke, she was one of the first people to hit the YouTube and media claiming that Chad had nothing to do with this and that he was a good guy. But it's when she backtracks that make people doubt her. And so here we go. So she went from this guy that was supposed to be great and godly to claiming later on that Chad Daybell, she had conflicting feelings towards him. She said she wanted to write books with him, but he just gave off a weird vibe. So it appears, her main goal here was, though she didn't feel comfortable with him, she needed her books written. So she did what she needed to do. At one point, she accused him of sexual assault because she said she had gone into a weird trance-like state and gotten a weird look in his eyes, and then he lunged at her and started grinding all over her. After saying his name 3 times, he had snapped out of this trance and that he had stopped doing what he was doing immediately and started crying. And so if you take what she has to say later on versus around now, she says that, well, she gives us a look that maybe this is when things in communication between the two started to get odd. She says she never found out why he did such a thing to her and that he really never addressed it, and that she tried to confront him via text message several times, but it took him months to actually respond. Julie Rowe would actually get her own theories as to why, attached to Tylee and her involvement with her mom and Chad Daybell later on. Maybe we'll cover that later. So for this part of the timeline, I'm going to stick it here in between 2017 in February of 2019. So you need to remember that according to Julie Rowe, Chad Daybell actually got in touch with her through messages February of 2019, responding to her questions. Wow, you really know how to burn bridges. You really don't know me at all. And I apologize, guys. I wanted to have this more together for you, but it's been so much research and everything. I had to learn their teachings, their doctrines. There were so many people to research. I really didn't have time to get the timeline completed for you guys, at least parts of it. So it's this part. And if you know, please share it in comments below. So we know that Julie Rowe mentioned the fact that Chad Daybell mentioned that his wife was going to die. Julie said that Chad was actually trying to milk her for sympathy by mentioning that several times that his wife was going to die. Something Julie says happens around this timeline is the fact that when he goes to his book signing deals, he's got a lot of women surrounding him and that he's misusing his gifts. And to her, at some point, he seems lustful and very selfish in his endeavors. He was using these gifts in order to get women to trust him, and to her, this was just creepy. Now remember, I'm not trying to be hard on Julie, not at all. I'm just trying really hard to understand what's going on here. So I'm in search for the truth, and so we're having to talk about the things that a lot of people are not talking about. And while she says she got creepy vibes off of him, why in the world did she continue to pursue him, and why did she hang out with him? So the only thing I can manage was it was for the fame and the books. See, Julie Rowe is keeping some pretty dark secrets, especially from Tammy. She knows these secrets and she's not really sharing major details like she always does. How was Tammy going to die? And why in the world would she not let Tammy know what her husband was saying behind her back? We're told that he suggests that she may pass away in her sleep. So, Julie Rowe, if you are going to resist the devil and Satan like she preaches all the time, she's not doing a very good job, especially during this time. And all her spirits, well, they're leaving her out of everything that's happening. She's very, very, very supportive of Chad and his circle of friends like Hector Salsa. And what she says later on Dr. Oz on how she believes that Chad had crossed over to a dark place in his life, well, why the heck did she stick around? Really? Also, she was saying that he was signing contracts with this definition, get this one, Luciferians. A fancy way of saying that Chad Daybell had actually sold his soul to the devil himself. It's around this time, if you were to go back and read the history on the forums like the LDS Freedom Forums, AVAL, I seen more concern about the teachings of these people than support. Either the people on these forums and websites were just keeping their mouths shut, while the ones that were condemning them condemned. There's no doubt in my mind that many, many people were at least reading everything that they were sharing on the internet, but just wasn't admitting to it. Many people saying that they discovered these forums because they hear of this woman, Julie Rowe. They want to know more about her. They search her name, and voila, the forums pull up. And there's a lot of talk about her being a fraud. But there's something I wanted to go into that I'm going to at least give a mention to you guys. It's called the Tree of Life. Just keep that in the back of your mind. But there's more and more concern about the damages Julie Rowe is creating amongst many, many families. I tried to look for Chad Daybell and other people, but the main name that pops up during this time where people are suffering, their money is dwindling, their families are breaking up, they're attached to Julie Rowe. But this doesn't seem to affect her getting jobs like with people, preparing the people, Color My Media. It's around July 15th of 2017. Now, don't quote me on these dates, but it's something like that. That Julie Rowe is going to have her first speaking engagement in 2 years. So she claims. This event will be held in Rexburg, Idaho at the Tabernacle. But she will not be alone. She says that there will be other gifted and talented people along her side. So now you have an idea of when Preparing the People are really starting to get out there. July 31st, 2017. Preparing the People, 006. Chad Daybell has returned to be a co-host and give his final take on the Rexburg conference and why his talk is so funny. Chad discusses future events in Utah and Idaho, places of safety, and why he chose to write, or I don't know why they said write fictional series about his real family visions. So there you go. You can see that this is what they're writing. They're saying he wrote a fictional series about a real family vision or visions. So they said this would be available for September 9th Utah conference. And you could get a $5 discount for podcast subscribers with a special code PAP podcast. So right now, one of the main topics that they are covering is translated beings and their groups. Around this time, Julie says Chad is very jealous of her gifts. According to Julie Rowe, she and Chad had sat in a car, and Chad would ask Julie questions for answers from the heavens. Here you go, guys. He was waking up to multiple probations through sessions with Julie. So before we can go forward, I want to actually share more information about the firstborn. And we're going to start by doing that on the next part of the series. I want to thank you all for your support. And if you would like to donate and help keep this channel going, you can go to Chasing a Murderer Patreon and donate there. And I want to ask you, if you can't do anything else at all, share these missing faces today on your social media platforms. The purpose of this series is to find truth and to bring justice for all the families that are involved. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.